Dean Gemmel here, and you're about to listen to another episode of The Whole Spiel from USA Curling. This one, a conversation with John Shuster, recorded a few weeks after he earned his 5th trip to the Olympic Games. Before we get to our interview, a few updates from USA Curling. January was a tough month as the Omicron variant forced us to cancel or postpone championships and events that are an essential part of what we do. We look forward to running championships, and as much as possible, alternative dates and qualification procedures are in place. We realize it's not easy for teams trying to plan their schedules, but we have announced some new dates and host sites, and based on advice we received from our medical teams, we hope to have more news very soon. As challenging as COVID has been for planning and our Team USA athletes, it hasn't put the brakes on our Olympic marketing efforts. Our member clubs have received a digital media kit, and we've released a primer video on watching curling. Thanks to Craig Fisher of Fort Wayne for that idea. We also have a short video that clubs can use when they email participants after a Learn to Curl, and we'll be producing a steady stream of content throughout the games. I hope everyone listening to this podcast helps ensure that it's shared widely. With that, let's get to this episode. He's the current Olympic gold medalist, and now he's set to be a 5-time Olympian. John Shuster, welcome to The Whole Spiel.
It's good to be at The Whole Spiel.
That's what you're on, man. You're The Whole Spiel, the new podcast from USA Curling, and we're glad to have you. Let's talk about this journey. I mean, I was just telling you, I did some research on 5-time Olympians. 5-time Olympians from the U.S. You join a group that includes Michael Phelps and Dara Torres, Allison Felix, another 5-time Olympian. And then when you get deeper than that, most of them are in sports like fencing, shooting, equestrian. So it's quite a thing. Now, you've just told me the only other 5-time Olympian in curling would be Torger Norgard, who was an alternate in 2002. But when you won and went in 2006 to your first games, you won bronze with Team Fenson. Did you imagine going to the next 4 after that?
I probably imagined it, but I definitely didn't expect it.
Yeah, I mean, knowing what you know about curling and just how hard it is, I think people outside our sport don't realize how hard it is to go to the Olympic Games in curling, and now you've owned it, and you've won under different formats. Talk about this last best 2 of 3 final against Team Dropkin. I was there. It was a great best 2 out of 3, some of the best curling I've seen in the United States. Tell me a little bit about that and sort of the emotional roller coaster that it was.
Yeah, I mean, the last best 2 out of 3, or the last 2 we played, I'd say that, our team was, I liked our chances, going in and thought, okay, we go out here and play well and we're just going to we'll win. I mean, not taking anything away from those teams, but that's just how I felt as myself. But this one felt different because I knew that we were going to have to go above and beyond, just going out and playing well, because essentially, we heard some chatter that all these other teams were talking amongst each other and like how you would beat our team. And there was game plans essentially being built to beat us around the country. And I knew that the way that Team Dropkin plays, that their game plan was a very effective way of essentially, countering what it is that our team does.
So how would you describe what that game plan was for them? What do you think they were trying to accomplish when they played you?
Well, I mean, they were trying to make it where, I mean, when they had the hammer, they would, if they were behind, we're kind of going after conservative deuces and trying to take opportunities to maybe get bigger ends. And when they didn't have the hammer was to play, make sure they did everything they could do to force us. And that sounds like classic curling, but they did it at a very, a lot of hitting, not a ton of rocks in play.
Right.
They're hoping we were going to be throwing, double center guards so they could, let us have the first one and then tick the second one and end up with some corner guards and rock and play. And we knew that we had to try to, the double center, we tried a few times against them when we were behind in that last round robin game we played, and it went sideways. So we knew the double center was not something we were going to be able to even try to utilize. And that was going to be the way we were going to have to try to neutralize their tick game because Tom Hall is an excellent ticker.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was there, of course, in the first round robin game, you guys were fully in control, I thought. Second time you played them in the round robin, you lost. And I thought the turning point was Corey Dropkin drew the side of the lid, I think, against 3, right? It's sort of not Corey's a great player, but if you were going to give him a shot that he had to make, he'd probably like a run back over that, I think he'd probably say. So that sort of turned it for them, and then it turned again for you guys when that steal of 2 happened. Did you feel it was that sort of compartmentalized, like it looked to from a spectator's point of view?
Oh, that was 100% the turning point of that final series. I mean, he had a shot to go to the Olympics. Like, right. They score 3 or 4 there if he makes that shot, and they're going to the Olympics, and our year was over. And but in curling sometimes, and I've even talked to Corey about this after, is they could have also drawn for 1 and they would have been 2 up playing the 7th end, and they're still in a very controlled position of the game. But when you have a shot that shows itself, as a potential game ender, a lot of times you play it, but sometimes when a half inch on either side of that game ender is a steal of 2, sometimes you have to maybe, assess if the risk is worth the reward, or the reward is worth the risk. And he put that one back a little bit and it ran down the sheet, and he hit the half inch on the other side of the shot that sends him to the Olympics. And that one gave us a steal of 2 and put us back in control of the game.
Yeah, they didn't spend a lot of time discussing it. I think just because Corey was playing with a lot of confidence at that point, wouldn't you say? I mean, it felt like he was making everything, and sometimes when you have a hot skip like that as a team, you sort of want to ride that, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. And I also told Corey, I said if that same shot, showed itself for us, I think we're probably playing it as well. So it's not like he did the wrong thing. It's just having the ability to kind of step back and say, okay, is this what we need to be playing to give ourselves the best chance to win in that particular situation? From our perspective, though, at the 5th end break, we had a big, long conversation. It's like, we got to make these back end guys, because we didn't make Joe throw too many, difficult shots that had consequences. And we really wanted to make Corey throw a shot that was very precise, that had consequences. And that's exactly what that shot was.
Yeah, I think until then he was throwing mainly what I'd call offensive shots, where he's trying to build on an opportunity, and you guys were a little bit on your heels. So it was really like an interesting boxing match back and forth in terms of a curling game. When I looked at that shot he threw, I thought there was a chance to easily give up a steal of 1, but I didn't see the steal of 2 happening. When you threw your last shot in that end, you said, we've left him a shot for 5. So loud enough that everybody heard it. So did you saw it right away, and that might have influenced them to play it right away? Do you think?
Oh, I don't think so, because those guys were already looking at it, and I'm like, oh no, we just left him a shot for 5. Like, right. It was more of a post thing, but in the same breath, I mean, I guess in hindsight, if my rock doesn't, it kind of took a stop quick, and had it gone, 2 inches further, all of a sudden he has to throw the draw for 1, or if it stops 2 inches shorter, has to throw the draw for 1, because there's nothing there for a big end. And serendipitously, it stopped in exactly the wrong place. That also gave us, a big opportunity to get a steal of multiple. Yeah.
And then it was just like an entirely different field of play after that. It was sort of remarkable. But anyways, like I said, I thought credit to both teams because it was really, I thought, some of the finest curling we've seen in a trials. Let's talk about, your first Winter Olympics was in 2006. You won a bronze playing with Team Fenson. And compare and contrast that. So 2006, the field, the state of curling, to what you're going to face in 2022.
Yeah, the curling is a different game now than it was then. That's for sure. I mean, carbon fiber brooms are kind of just coming out right before the 2006 Olympics. And, so sweeping became now, maybe easier to be better at it, because you didn't expend so much energy pushing around those giant brownies that everybody's using before that. And the teams were back then, I think, older than they are now. Yeah. And not nearly as in good a shape than the teams are now. And honestly, I think other than the team that Canada was sending, I don't think from a strategy standpoint, like you could beat teams on strategy for, other than the Canadian team on a regular basis if you executed. And now that's not the case, even with, there's going to be 6 or 7 or 8 teams at this Olympics that you're going to have to not only, execute as well or better than them, but then also you're not going to get those, a lot of those big strategy errors that we used to maybe get back in 2006 against teams.
Yeah, I mean, Marco Usopavlonimi was the silver medalist in 2006, right? And I think not to take anything away from that team at the time, but it's definitely the level of precision is so much higher now, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And yeah, but that's Marco and his team was a great. I mean, really shows that in a smaller tournament, like 10 teams as opposed to our worlds, which are 12 or 13 or 14 now, even
right.
That. Especially when it's just a semifinal and a final, it's not quite as, you definitely give the opportunity to some teams that maybe just have a skip that gets really hot, getting a chance to win an Olympic medal. And that's still the case. I think that's what people think was the case with us in 2018.
Well, yeah. I mean, having played in both, compare and contrast playing in a world championship versus an Olympic Games.
I mean, the world championship is a gauntlet. Like it really is. Even when it was 12 teams, you had 11 games. Mm-hmm. That was, a true gauntlet. And then up until a couple of years ago, that gauntlet was if you didn't finish in the top 2 at the end of the round robin, you got to win 3 games. So you essentially have to beat all 3 teams that qualified for the playoffs with you to win a world championship. Whereas at the Olympics, you finish, like we did 3rd or 4th in the round robin, you just have to win 2 games to beat 2 of those 3 teams, which gives you a much better chance probably to get a title than it would be at the World Championships. But the world has changed a little bit there too.
Well, I think the difference though, right, is you feel, as you have so acutely, you feel the weight of the entire country versus just our nation's curlers, correct?
That is definitely what, I think I discovered, throughout my Olympic career.
Yeah,
is that
2010, 14, and the first half of 18, right? I mean,
yep. And that was where, the second half of 18, I finally gave myself a break and was like, you know what, forget about the rest of the country and the million people that might be paying attention as opposed to the, 20,000 that would have been paying attention, had you been playing a world championship, and even forget about that too. And go out there and play for 4 guys, the 3 on the ice and your alternate and the work that we put in. And that's really where, I think I finally found the secret sauce, in curling and hence how you've seen kind of our team's growth and success even beyond that 2018 Olympics.
Yeah, I would say your team has improved. I mean, and I think you personally have watched your own game evolve and improve. I think your point there is a good one for people listening who are trying to curl an elite level of playing for your teammates. I've heard Wayne Maddaw say that, he plays for the 3 other guys in his team. And I imagine it could be easy at the Olympics when people like Kirstie Alley are tweeting some stuff that, not that anybody cares what she says, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of trash going on. And it's, so that's really was the difference in 2018. You just said, I'm playing for my guys and myself and whatever happens, happens.
That's exactly where the turning point happened. But, I think 2018, we also had a little, we got a little bit of we'll call it a lucky break. With the social media aspect is that everybody was having so much fun with Matt Hamilton's, right, mustache and his persona and the mixed doubles and, and they weren't necessarily successful, but we had so much fun with social media. Cause the Kirstie Alley thing was hilarious. Like, she says something about, I'm sorry, but this curling just isn't, that exciting to me. And then, Price Atkinson, who was running our social media, is like, no offense, but not exactly all of your movies were, great cinema. So
yeah, I know. I loved it. Yeah. So it was a nice comeback. So
we had fun with that. And I think that was the other part. Like we actually had fun with social media for a change. Whereas, I looked at social media in 2010 and you start feeling bad about yourself pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's a performer, you're a performer as an Olympic athlete, anybody who's a performer on anything, whether it's, acting or comedy or whatever, if you start to dive into social media, you can really be careful. You can really end up in a dark place. I know there's lots of performers that just don't look at it anymore for that very reason. So
yeah. And you just have to be careful. That's all.
Yeah. You've been in all kinds of different Olympic games at this point, right? From 2006 in Torino to 2010 in Vancouver, which was its own animal. Now you're going to be at in Beijing, and we're still under the cloud of COVID. How are you preparing for these games?
I think the preparation for this games is pretty similar to how we prepared for Pyeongchang. Other than, our families aren't going to be there with us. So we're not, honestly, I spent a lot of time through all those Olympics trying to make sure that their accommodations were, going to be something that wasn't going to cause them stress too. And yeah, we're still trying to figure out where our families are going to go and how they're going to watch this Olympics too. So, but that being said, our team knows that when you go to an Olympics, you're pretty much, in the Olympic Village and doing the food thing and you're kind of in a bubble anyways. So I think honestly, all these previous Olympics and knowing how you're kind of bubbled anyways with other athletes is not really that much different, except for we're not going to have, I'm not going to be able to take that walk with my wife and kids that really got my mind in the right place. And you're going to have to, go there maybe a little bit more mentally tough, than we have in the past, because we're going to really have to lean on each other as opposed to leaning on the outside world.
So now it'll be a Zoom call instead of the walk. You'll do that if Zoom is working in China. But
right.
Hey, talk about just yesterday. Your teammate Chris Plys and Vicky Persinger got the spot in the mixed doubles in that Olympic qualifier event, which was, they played fantastic. Obviously, you've got to be pretty happy with the way your third Chris Plys is playing right now.
Yeah, 100%. When he won the trials, even, I was screaming at the TV as that trials game was ending. When Vicky made that last shot, I think that was the loudest I've screamed at my TV, because I care deeply about my teammate. And I've gotten close with Vicky over the last couple of years too, because when we're at tournaments, including the trials, Corey and myself and Vicky and Chris, generally get a house together and we're like one team, even though we're playing, against each other. And
curious aspect of mixed doubles trials. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, I felt so compelled that I was home at Superior, and I ran to the store over here and grabbed a bottle of champagne and ran it up there before they left there, because I just was so excited for them. And honestly, same thing yesterday when they won, I was when their game was going on, I was watching as the biggest fan probably out there, and I couldn't have been more proud with how both of them played, but for sure, my teammate who I've spent a lot of time playing with and training with and spending a lot of time outside of curling with over the last 4 years. And yeah, he made his skipper very proud yesterday. And I think, he's now gets a chance to go to the Olympics and get it rolling. And they have a legitimate chance of winning the Olympic gold in mixed doubles, because they're a great team. And obviously he can take the momentum that he can build off of mixed doubles and just continue it on and come out there and dominate in the men's program as well.
Anything you learned from last time when your teammate Matt Hamilton played in the mixed doubles with his sister Becca that you'll take to this experience now with Chris playing in mixed doubles in advance of the men's and women's?
It's actually kind of funny, because I think really, you don't do a lot with them other than encourage them and get to cheer them on. And we're not going to be there. We're going to get there kind of the same time. They're going to be halfway through their competition before we even arrive in China. So, just supporting him and being a sounding board for anything he needs during the thing. And then, when it comes time, when mixed doubles ends, no matter how well, good or bad or otherwise it goes for him, to welcome him back onto our team and honestly get back to work. So
yeah, back onto the island. Now you got your next job to work on. Hey, that Olympic qualifying event they were in, you've been in one of those before with the men's team. What's the pressure in that like? I have to think it's even worse.
You'd think so, but I was, when we were there, I was, and same thing I told Chris, I said, you're going to go there and you're going to be, there's maybe one other team that can shoot with you there. And that's Russia. Right. And of course, that's the team he's playing to go to the Olympics. Right. And so if you go there and you take care of business and focus on you and what you're doing, the results will happen. And that's really what I thought when we went to that Olympic qualifier event in China, or sorry, in Germany, where it was for us, is that, you know what, we're going to be the best team top to bottom in this competition. And these other teams are obviously, very good curling teams, but if we go there and control what we can control, we should get our spot at the Olympics. And that was, it wasn't, I hardly remember it even being a crazy pressure situation, which is insane to think about. But our trials, were more difficult than the Olympic qualifying event back in 2018 or in 2014. And Chris, I think, I truly believe that our trials were a much, much tougher competition to win than what he was going to go play in. So they just had to do what they did at trials and play well, and they'd give themselves a great chance to make it to the Olympics.
Yeah, I think that's a fair and accurate assessment. I think the strength of field at the U.S. Olympic mixed doubles trials was really great. I mean, I was there, and I thought it was exciting to see where our collection of top players is at, and then at the team trials, I think certainly, like I said, I think that was such a great men's final, and I think Tabitha Peterson's team now on the women's side, I think we go in with serious contenders, which I think you'd admit wasn't always the case at every Olympic Games, and so it's exciting to see. So have you heard? What's life been like since this? Since this latest win? I know you just got off an interview with NBC. That's why you have that nice new microphone. So perk of being an Olympian, you get a new microphone. But what has the pace been like? It's certainly something you're used to now, but what's it been like so far?
I mean, it's been a lot. I pretty much have some sort of, call or podcast or something that I've been doing every day. And I don't necessarily have to do that. But for me, I like growing our game, as as much as anybody. And honestly, not having a job outside of curling and being a stay-at-home dad. And so I, get my kids ready for school in the morning, get them off to school. And then I don't have anything on my agenda generally during the day, except for getting my, workout and practice in. And so, yeah, throwing that stuff in and growing, both, our teams, following to the best of my ability. And I try to keep a lot of that off my teammates' plates too, because, those guys are out there, working jobs, and Chris obviously had the Olympic qualifier going too, but it's been pretty fast paced, but we've been pretty excited. We're actually working with Lawler down in Omaha, who did all the merch for our trials. And they're actually getting some stuff out there for our fans too, coming up very shortly to, show their support of our team too. And I've been working a lot trying to get some stuff out there for our fans, which that's been a huge demand since we won as well.
That's terrific. I think there's some pieces in place that could make this, maybe the best games to grow your team's profile, your profile some more. Quickly, I'll end with this. Your thoughts on growing the game. You mentioned that. I know how committed you are to it. People may not realize, not everybody may not realize, but you're behind the National 5 and Under Championship that we're doing with USA Curling so far. And like I said to you when I started working with you a little bit on it, I said, you can give me 10% of your time and your name, but you've given me 90% of your time and your name. So what are you looking forward to in May when we go out to California for that?
I'm looking forward to the excitement for being there. All those curlers, when they arrive there, I want to give them a national championship feeling, like that they're playing in something different than they've ever played in before. And I just from the talk, I have 2 or 3 teams in my own club who are doing everything they can to get there. One of them, I said, hey, there's a qualifier in Grand Forks this weekend. That might be a potentially better opportunity to qualify for it than trying to play, in our Duluth event, which is probably going to have 32 or 48 teams in it. You can go play, in this North Dakota one. I have no idea how many teams. Yeah, there was significantly less teams, but they got second. And I was like, well, maybe the team that won isn't going to go. They're like, nope, they're going.
Oh yeah, they're excited. I heard from them right away.
So that's the part that when that was said to me from Scott, my friend who was out there playing in that in Grand Forks, it really, kind of, I guess, solidifies the thought that these curlers are excited and really looking forward to that opportunity. So I'm looking forward to being out there in May and seeing it firsthand and honestly, being involved and trying to help those people, continue whatever their curling journey is going to be.
Well, John, I appreciate that. And I know curlers appreciate it. We're looking forward at USA Curling to making that the kind of event you just described. So, bottom line, thanks very much for your time. I know it's busy. We're all excited to watch you and your team and Tabitha and her team and Vicky and Chris at the Olympic Games. It's been I think post-COVID, it's been a nice sense of some normal to be able to watch high-level curling, and I'm sure for you to compete in it. So best of luck as you continue this journey, and I know we'll be talking quite regularly.
That sounds great, Dean. Thanks for having me today.
That was John Shuster on the whole spiel. I hope you're ready for a great month of curling and cheer on John and all of our athletes representing the United States on the ice at the Olympic Games. I'm Dean Gemmel, Director of Curling Development at USA Curling, and I hope you'll reach out to me with suggestions for future episodes or to share ideas that can help grow our game. Email me at dean.gemmel@usacurling.org. And remember to visit the USA Curling website frequently for news, links to social media, and USA Curling apparel and merchandise. Be a member, be a supporter, be a fan, but stay involved in the sport you love.